Hi guys, so in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how I made this beautiful mermaid skirt with a tail using the hip allocation method. It is a dartless mermaid skirt with a cut together tail. It is so detailed, beginner friendly and very easy to understand. So if you're interested, please keep watching, and if this is your first time on the channel, please click on the subscribe button and also don't forget to share, drop a like and drop a comment. So now we are going to go into the drafting of the skirt proper. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to draft on my pattern paper, after which I'll transfer it to my main fabric because I tried drafting on my main fabric directly. It wasn't clear enough, so I had to repeat it on the pattern paper for clarity. The first thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to draw a straight horizontal line at the top of my paper, which is going to serve as the waistline. Next, I'm going to go ahead to insert the full length of the skirt. So I'm attaching the skirt to a gown. So I'll be starting my measurement from my half length, which is 17 inch. So I'm going to go ahead to insert the full length. The full length of the skirt I'm making is 55 inch, but because I'm making a mermaid skirt, I want it to be longer. I'm going to be making use of 60 inch. Next, I'll go ahead to insert my waist to hip depth, which is 26 inch, and my waist to 2 inch above the nail, which is 36 inch. After doing that, I'll go ahead to draw a straight horizontal line like you see me doing in the video. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to insert the waist and the hip circumference measurements on the waistline and on the hip line. But before then, I'm going to be doing some calculation because I'm going to be using the hip allocation method for this mermaid skirt, because the skirt is not going to have a dart and I want it to have this shape at the back of the skirt. And in doing that, I'm going to be using this formula. For the front, I'm going to be using the hip divided by 2 minus 1.5, while for the back, I'm going to be using my hip divided by 2 plus 1.5. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead to do is to divide the hip by 2. So the hip I'm working with is 34 divided by 2 is 17 inch. That is 17 for the front and 17 for the back. So the next thing we're going to go ahead to do is to allocate the hip to the front, which is the hip divided by 2 minus 1.5. So 17 minus 1.5 is 15.5. Then for the back is the hip divided by 2 plus 1.5, which is 17 plus 1.5, which is going to give us 18.5. So I'm going to go ahead to use this 15.5 for the front of the skirt. So the next I'm going to go ahead to do is to insert the waist circumference on the waistline. So I'm going to be marking my waist divided by 4 on the waistline. I'll mark. Next, I'll move over to the hip line and I'll be inserting this 15.5. But because we are cutting the front on fold, I'll be dividing this 15.5 by 2. So 15.5 divided by 2 is 7.75. So I'm going to go ahead to mark the 7.75 on the hip line. After marking the 7.75 on the hip line, I'm going to move over to the new line and I'll be inserting my measurements on the new line. So to get the measurements you'll be needing on the new line, what you do is to divide your hip by 4. So my hip is 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. Then you go ahead to minus 1.5 or 2 inch from whatever you get, depending on how fitted you want the new part to be. So I'm going to be minusing 2 inch from the 8.5, which is going to give me 6.5 inch. So I'm going to go ahead to insert the 6.5 inch on the new part of the skirt. So if you don't want to use this formula, you can go ahead to take whatever you have on the waistline and place it on the new line. It is still going to give you the same thing. Next, I'll go ahead to connect the waist to the hip depth and to the new using my ruler like you see me doing in the video. Next, I'm going to be moving over to the hem of the skirt, and this part here depends on how full you want your mermaid skirt to be. But for me, I'm going to be making this part here 20 inches. So I'm going to go ahead to mark the 20 inches. After marking the 20 inches, I'll connect the nail to the hem using a straight line like you see me doing in the video. Next, I'll be adding my seam allowance of 1.5 inch on the waistline, on the hip line, on the knee line, and also on the hem, after which I'll connect the points together using my ruler. So here we have the front of the skirt drafted. Next I'm going to go ahead to do is to cut it out. After cutting it out, to go ahead to drafting the back of the skirt. So now I'll be moving over to drafting the back of the skirt, and in doing that, first I'll be placing my front pattern on the skirt this way. So when placing it this way, make sure you leave an extra space of at least 12 inch on the center part of the skirt for the tail, because we'll be cutting the tail of the mermaid skirt together. After placing it on the back pattern, next I'll go ahead to extend the waistline, the knee line, and also the hip line like you see me doing in the video. So for the mermaid skirt, the side of the skirt is equal. The only difference we're going to be having is the hip allocation method we did. Remember, we took 1.5 inch for the front. So the 1.5 inch we took for the front, we're going to be placing it on the center back of the hip like you see me doing in the video. Then I'm going to go ahead to connect the waist to the hip line like you see me doing using my curved ruler. Then I'll go ahead to connect it back to the main skirt like you see. So the main purpose of using this hip allocation method is to give the skirt this nice fitting and shape at the back of the skirt. So this is what it is going to look like when you replace the 1.5 inch you took from the front to the center back of the skirt. So next I'm going to go ahead to mark my zipper allowance of 1.5 inch on the waist, on the hip line, and also down to the hemline, after which I'll go ahead to connect with my ruler like you see me doing. So when sewing your zip, make sure you follow this curve so that after making the skirt or the gown you're making, you're going to be having this nice shape and fitting at the back of the skirt. So this part here is going to serve as the zipper allowance for the skirt. When fixing your zip, make sure you follow the curve to have that nice shape at the back of the skirt. Next, I'm going to go ahead to work on the hem. So I want the back of the skirt to be longer than the front. So remember the front was 60 inch. I'm going to go ahead to extend the back by 10 inch. You can extend it to whatever length you want depending on how long you want it to be. Next, I'm going to go ahead to draw the tail of the skirt. So remember, on this part you should have at least 12 inch for the tail. So I'm going to go ahead to mark the 12 inch. Sorry, my camera did not capture that point, but all you need to do is to mark the 12 inch you have there. Then you go ahead to place your ruler from the new and extend it down to the length of the skirt. That is the 10 inch you extended the back to. You draw your line down to the edge, making it to be in form of a slant. Next, I'll go ahead to connect this part of the skirt to where the tail stop using my hand like you see me doing in the video. So this is what it's going to look like after you're done drafting. This is what the tail should look like. So the zipper allowance is going to go all the way down to the hem of the skirt. The next I'm going to go ahead to do is to cut it out. So as you can see, I did not add any sewing allowance to the side of the back because I already did that on my front pattern. So there will be no need for another sewing allowance on the back pattern of the skirt. So here we have the front of the skirt and here we have the back of the skirt. So this is what it is going to look like after drafting. Next I'm going to go ahead to do is to cut my fabric using this pattern I have drafted already. So here I've gone ahead to cut my fabric using the pattern that was drafted earlier. So this is what it's going to look like after cutting. So here I have my sequins and the satin. The next I'm going to go ahead to do is to attach the satin to the sequins, and in doing that, first I'm going to go ahead to open the front pattern of the skirt, then I'll place the satin on it, making sure that the bad face of the satin is facing the good face of the sequins, so that after sewing and it is being turned over, I'm going to still have the shiny effect. Next, I'll go over my sewing machine to close up the down and the sides of the skirt. I'll also do the same thing for the back, after which I'll turn it over to the good face, give it a good press, and come back to show you what it looks like. So after attaching the satin to the sequin, this is what it looks like, and this is what the inner part looks like. So here we have the front of the skirt, and here we have the back of the skirt. I also did the same thing for the back of the skirt. So the next I'm going to go ahead to do is to attach the skirt to the upper bodice, which I've already made, and I'll show you what it looks like. But if you're making a skirt, you can go ahead to close up the side, fix your zipper and your waistband to the skirt. So after attaching the upper bodice to the skirt, this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's looking so beautiful, all nice and very lovely. So if this video was helpful to you, please don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to, and also don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next class.